Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Winvic and Partners Pavilion. We're really pleased to be here today in partnership with Invest Warwickshire, hosting this panel on what good development looks like. So for those of you who are not familiar with Winvic, we're a main contractor. We were established in 2001. We're actually celebrating our 25th year in business this year. We operate across 4 core sectors, so industrial and logistics is one of them, civils and infrastructure, multi-room, and now data centres. But we're really passionate about working in partnership, collaboration, and delivering good development, hence why we're really delighted to be here today with many of our client partners and a great discussion around what actually makes that good development. I'm going to hand over to Isabel, our chair.
Good morning, everyone. Hi there. So I'm Isabel Woods. I'm Head of Economy and Growth at Warwickshire County Council. Really excited to be here. And I think just a little bit about Warwickshire, you know, we're really proud that we are the home of rugby. We are proud to be the home of the Belfry, which has just received a £20 million investment in its conference and leisure. Obviously, we have Shakespeare as well, and you may have heard of Mary Evans, who, of course, is our George Eliot. So we're absolutely proud of the culture and the leisure offer we have. But our economy is really key for us. So we have a really strong, we have the headquarters of Jaguar Land Rover. That's their R&D is taking place in Warwickshire. We partner with Coventry around the automotive sector. And actually, when we look at that Coventry-Warwickshire relationship, we have over 40 OEMs that are in rail, aero and defence and automotive. We're really leading the location in the UK around our automotive. We have over 60 independent creative game studios as well in Leamington Spa. We're seeing that grow as well across our county. And we have a really wonderful rural economy. Food and drink is important to us. We have our farmers are supplying McCanns, our farmers are supplying florets. So you never know, those chips on your plate or those leaves in your salad more than likely have come from Warwickshire. So we're super proud. But actually what's underpinning all of that and that what's important for our economy, 2 big parts. One of those being our supply chain. We are 74% of our business base is SMEs. That's 22,000 business we have in Warwickshire. And we also have our Invest Coventry and Warwickshire prospectus. We have 18 million square foot of industrial space available for development. So that's why today, hearing about good development, you know, this is more than that bricks budget and the delivery of. Yes, it has to be quality, but this is about how do we get those holistic outcomes. So I'm really excited that our panel here today. So going to be talking about what does good development mean to them? What does that mean in how we deliver this as a public-private relationship? And also what are those other outcomes can we achieve? So this is about the skills, this is about sustainability, and this is also about that placemaking in the community, which for us in Warwickshire is really important. So really excited that we've got a number of our key partners here. So without further ado, I'm going to ask them all to introduce themselves. And if I can start with yourself, Stuart, who you are and a little bit what's going on in your world.
Okay, thank you, Isabel. So I'm Stuart Buckley. So I'm the MD of what's called Warwickshire Property and Development Group. So we are actually a delivery vehicle for the County Council. We're a private company, but 100% owned by the county. And we're there to do 2 things, really. To deliver on the outcomes of new residential, new commercial space for the benefit of the residents, and also to provide a mixed cocktail of financial returns back to the authority to plough in to frontline services, really. So that's sort of what we term profit with a purpose. So in this context, we're building a number of industrial estates across the county that are there for small units to support that SME sector. That is a big part of the economy, really, in Warwickshire.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Ian Romano, so I'm the Head of Land and Development at Prologis. Prologis builds, holds, manages primarily logistics and advanced manufacturing space, but we also operate in life sciences, data centres, we have an energy business, we have a venture capital business, so it's a broader church than just logistics and advanced manufacturing. Globally, we operate around 20 countries, 4 continents. We hold about 1.3 billion square feet now globally. We represent about 6,500 customers across advanced manufacturing, retail, omni-channel, e-commerce, parcel operators. But in the UK specifically, and particularly Warwickshire, we operate in 4 core markets. We're East and West Midlands, London and South East. We hold about 22 parks. particularly active in Warwickshire, particularly active with partners around Ryton. We hold existing parks. We have expansion land, which we're promoting as well. So it's a really core area for us.
I'm Kate Howe. I work for Tritax Big Box Development. So we're the development side of the Real Estate Investment Trust. So the REIT own and manage, now we've got £8 billion of assets under management in that portfolio. Everything that we develop is funded by the REIT and goes into the REIT once it's let. And we are therefore kind of long-term investors in the market. And we see ourselves when we're building things, and it's pertinent to kind of today's discussion, as everything that we build, we are going to own, manage, and be the custodians of for the long term. So we're in it for 20 to 25 years in the business.
Excellent. Good morning all. Dan Holford. I'm Head of National Markets at SEGRO. So SEGRO are a FTSE listed real estate investment trust, so based in the UK, but operate from 8 different geographies across continental Europe. So we've got just over £20 billion worth of assets under management, and my part of the portfolio is the big box portfolio in the UK. So we have interests as far north as sort of Junction 24 on the M1 right the way down to Radlett in Hertfordshire that we're bringing through. So really, Iredale is the core sector for us. We also have a data centre side of the business, so 32 data centres on the Slough trading estate, so the biggest DC cluster outside of Ashburn in Virginia, which is a relatively decent stat. So so Iredale and DCs are really our game.
Fantastic, thank you so much. So I'm going to ask the panel for a couple of comments for their thoughts and views on good development, and then we'll have a bit of time at the end for some questions from those in the audience. So I'm going to kick us off, and Dan, I'm going to come to you first if I can. The phrase good development we talk about, but actually, from your perspective, what does that mean, and what does that mean for SEGRO? And, your thoughts about how we can align that with the different stakeholders that we come into and work with.
Yeah, thanks, Isabel. I mean, what I'm probably going to do is start with saying that I don't think good development cuts it anymore. I think it's going to be excellence in delivery, to be quite frank. I think, most of the positions that we hold at SEGRO are long-term investments for us. So we'll hold them for in excess of 25, 30 years, but equally they'll take more often than not sort of 10 or 15 years to actually bring through the development pipeline, promote through the local planning process. And we have to think about long-term infrastructure and what impact that has on both jobs, productivity and investment in the local region. And that's relatively relevant with all of the sites that we're involved in and all the local authorities that we sort of engage with. And when we talk about sort of future-ready infrastructure, what we really mean is, some of our sites are now rail connected, so that's a relatively important part. So looking at sort of multimodal forms of transport, power and connectivity are really, really important. With the drive of sort of AI automation for most of our occupiers, their power demands are only ever increasing. But equally, we have to think about embedding sustainability in design as well. So and that's really from the outset, we can't think of it as an afterthought. It's not something we can do retrospectively to our schemes and our buildings. So we do think about that really, really intently during the outset of the design phase of all of our schemes. And then thirdly, really, we have to think about creating value locally. So that's hugely, hugely important. And typically speaking at SEGRO, we tend to run a community investment programme alongside most of our development schemes. And that we run hand in hand with the local authorities. So effectively, there's a lasting legacy in the areas that we're operating. Because, as I say, if you're going to be there for 25, 30 years, you need to engage with local communities, with local stakeholders, with schools, with sort of local neighbourhood groups and working groups. So I think second part of the question that you asked me is kind of how do you sort of align good development between various different stakeholders? And we've kind of, for us at SEGRO, we have a number of stakeholder sets, and that might be our investors. And what our investors are looking to do is, of course, create value from all of the capital that we're allocating. We've got our occupiers who they want certainty, and they want certainty over delivery, and they want certainty over quality and sustainability. That's hugely important to them. And we've got our public sector partners in terms of local communities and planners that I've mentioned. And then finally, we've got the likes of Winvic, who are our delivery partners. So I think as long as we're thinking about the outcomes of each one of our stakeholders, is where we get a really, really decent, lasting outcome from our development. So we can call that, probably not even good development, but excellence in development really as well.
Fantastic. Thoughts from the panel? Want to go in?
Yeah, I endorse Dan's comments. Yeah, good, great, exceptional, aspirational. We need to change the perception, I think, from our sector. I heard, I won't say who it was, I heard someone come up with a comment a couple of weeks ago, and they said, well, they're just sheds, they're just functional. Which, 2 points on that. On a level, yeah, that person was correct. They are. I mean, that's kind of their operational efficiency. If they're not delivering a functional purpose, what's the point in delivering that? You can apply that to any asset class. But it does raise a more fundamental concern. If that's the perception of stakeholders of our asset class and what we're delivering on our parks, we need to do more, and we've got a problem. So I think depending on who you're asking, you'll get a very different response in terms of what's good, what's great. Whether it's our customers, and we know we need, yes, they've got to be operationally efficient, they've got to be the best buildings on the best parks to deliver the best quality customers, to make sure it's the best environment for their staff. So there's that element of it, building the buildings, getting the right design, the right location, the right specification, making sure they're adaptable, because what we're delivering today is going to be very different in over 20, 30 years. So in making sure that actually we're future-proofing, we're trying to plan, we're trying to innovate for what the future customers might need as well. That's a challenge, whether you're delivering speculative or build-to-suit. So you've got to address all of that for the customer, and you've got to create the best environment. But in terms of the wider stakeholders, and that I think is a piece that we need to focus more on, all of us across the sector. How do we change those perceptions? And it's about delivering a different approach, of designing parks differently, making business parks aspirational, because quite frankly, at the moment, people don't want them, and we need to change that perception. What do we need to do about the quality of design, how we integrate that with the communities, how we bring them into our parks, how do they get a tangible benefit as a community of what we're delivering, rather than just being faced with buildings that there's no benefit to them. So yeah, I think we've got still some way to go. I think we're improving, but I think depending on which stakeholder you're speaking to, you'll get a very different response.
Yeah. It's that bridging that understanding, helping the education, doing maybe some myth busting as well around what the outcome is, like linked with the occupier.
For us, yeah, absolutely. I think it's an education piece from, and this starts at for children. We bring schools in. We start educating them, we start bringing them into, so we have a training hub at Durft where we run education and training courses with our partner, Goodwill Solutions. It's about bringing children in, having careers days and showing them actually what a career in our sector is all about. Because most people see a building, they don't understand the operations inside. Bring them in, show them what's going on, show them the kind of jobs that we're providing for within these buildings. And these are highly trained, highly qualified individuals. So they need to be trained. We're running those courses to bring people through from apprenticeships all the way up to degree level, in terms of matching those skills shortages and trying to deliver it for the customers who have the need for those jobs. So yeah, it starts at school age, quite frankly, and will take some time to change those perceptions.
And Kate from Tritax.
Yeah, I would definitely echo the comments that have been made. Integrating yourself into the community that you're working in is really important. So it's going above and beyond, well, I'm just building a building and then I'm going to let the building and off we go into the sunset. It's saying, well, what does the community need from us? So we also do financial commitments to local good causes. That's chosen by, the local authorities that we work, and we sit and we communicate with them and say, well, what do you need from us? Things like sitting on local investment boards, so that you are bringing partners in and saying, look, we're part of the community that we're working in. We want to give you something that you need from us. And we listen and we say, here's an education piece about what we build. What can we do to help you in your local communities and your local areas? And we do things like, we had a vacant building. We offer that to our local authorities and said, well, you need a meeting space for your local group. We had 150 people come in, and we hosted that in the offices in one of our vacant units to say, come in, see it, look at the quality, look at the environment that we're doing. And I think it also comes back to basic first principles. So when you're sitting at the drawing board there, operations are obviously key. Our buildings have to do the job, and they have to do the job exceptionally well, but make it a people-first approach. Yeah. If you think about the people in the building, people who are going to come to site, it's, well, what environment do they want to be in? What will make their working life better, more productive, more enjoyable? Is it open space? Is it a country park? Is it multimodal transport? And if you put people at the centre of what you do from the beginning of design, then you're starting with good placemaking.
I think it's interesting that you're starting to see those trying to find those solutions as well. So incredibly good. I'm going to move us on now a little bit to our next question, if that's all right. And Ian, I'm going to reach to you and point to you if that's okay. So it's great to have you here from Prologis. A little bit about how we balance this commercial success. So how do we take that commercial success and balance it against this value and impacts, and being able to respond to the occupiers' needs, but also those challenges that are around us, whether it's the environmental or the power. You know, how do we do that without compromising this excellent development?
I think depending on who you ask, you get a very, very different answer to that question. And I think it's not to be critical of other delivery models, but we're quite unique in terms of what we do. We are able to take a longer term approach on our developments because we're a long-term holder. We don't have to look at the development in terms of what it will generate over the next 12 months. So from the viability perspective, how can we deliver all of these benefits? Because quite frankly, if we want to deliver the best design, we want to deliver the best buildings, we want to deliver the best parks, all of that is costing more money than it used to. Quite frankly, the old approach to development was have a parcel of land and we'll put the buildings on there and then we might retrofit some open space at the end of that. You know, the industry in the sector was guilty of that. And I think we're starting to learn from other sectors. So look at what the office market is doing, look what the leisure, look what the retail. They've been doing placemaking way before our sector. So I think we're starting to take ideas from what they've done. We take ideas from each other. We learn, you know, what we should do is actually share these ideas to improve the quality of our product and the perception across the industry. This isn't about sort of keeping our ideas to ourselves. We will replicate and take ideas from other people. So I think we're spending more on the design of buildings. We're making them look better. And I think, you know, that goes from the offices, the quality. Kate mentioned about, you know, bringing more light into the building. Don't just put 15% roof lights in. Put some breakthrough windows around the building, enhance the elevation, flood it with light. People who are working in those warehouses have got to be there for a long shift. So make it improve the well-being and the environment for them. That costs more money. Improving the offices, putting the higher quality of toilets in. You know, basic things like this, that you put toilets in the warehouse, make them the same quality as you would in the offices, make people think there's value in this job. So all of these things cost money. Developments are, I think if you look what we used to build 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the density of sites is getting less now. We are creating better open spaces. So if you're increasing the design costs, you're increasing the build cost because you're delivering a better specification and you're losing net developer area, all of that is going to put strain on business models. For us, our objective is to keep our customers in the building, get the best customers, find the best locations, build the best product, and our customers will stay. And they'll find it easy to recruit staff into their buildings as well. So, yeah, that does put pressure on. They're not mutually exclusive. You can still deliver a great product, but I think if you take a longer term view, for us, it's about getting that rent roll, that recurring rent roll from our customers. So we're happy to spend more money on all of those elements, deliver the best product, and hopefully, you know, if there's a financial reward to us, we'll keep our customers on our parks.
Right. Stuart, I mean, from Warwickshire property development side, how do we balance this all out?
I think it's interesting because we're slightly different to the other guys, and not in a bad way or a good way, but just different in the sense that what we're looking to do is actually create buildings that support local companies, really. So, you know, we look to build units of 1,500 to 15,000 square foot in Warwickshire. In the past 5 years, other than us, there's one other scheme that's happened in that context. Because from developers' point of view, you know, if they've got a site of, you know, what we look at 3 or 4 acres, it would make more sense. It costs less to build one single building. You've got less management because you've just got one tenant. It's easier to sell if you're gonna move it on. So all that comes to the path of least resistance is just to build a single building. We don't take that approach. We look and say what's needed in the market. I think, as Isabel said, 74% of businesses in Warwickshire are SMEs. So we look and say, actually, what is the need in that location? And we have got 3 schemes now that are either built on site or in planning, with another 3 that are coming up, and that they're going to generate about 60 to 70 small units. And what you see from that is the actual benefit locally. So for us, it's the building's got to look good. It's got to be energy efficient. It's got to have the PV and EV and all those things. But actually, it's about the tenant. It's about helping businesses grow. So from our side, we've had the first scheme we've done, a startup business go in there. That business had 2 people. Within 12 months, it had 10. Now it's looking to take another unit on, not on our site, unfortunately, but another unit on elsewhere to expand into. And they're looking to have about 35 to 40 jobs in the next 12 months. Again, the automotive sector is really sort of a strategic part of the economy in Warwickshire. So a number of the businesses we've got are small SMEs who supply to the tier ones. So one of them, German-owned company, has a manufacturing plant literally next door, needed more space to open a UK customer centre. So again, more jobs, kept it local. People come from all around the country to the centre to sort of get the, I'm not the technical side, but get whatever they needed to get done to the products. So for us, it's about ensuring that we can supply those units, and we can only do that with the backing of the shareholder and the county who debt fund us, because we've been to the market and trying to get finance to build multi-units where you've got no pre-lets is just really difficult. So I think the approach is one that could easily be replicated in other areas. I don't think Warwickshire is unique in that it has a lack of small units for SMEs, and we're trying to fill that void. But in doing that then feeds into what these guys are doing and that whole ecosystem really. And some of the conversations now that we're finding with planning authority and so forth is they want these type of schemes in the bigger schemes. So they want an area that's defined for these small units, because it gives that mix, it gives that blend from 1,500 to 1 million square foot on a site. And that's where we can come into that role. And I think for us, it's about that job creation. It's about helping local businesses. And when we do public consultations, it's probably slightly different to the feedback we get, because what we're really being asked is, well, how can we take one of these? Because it's about, we get people come in and go, I need a unit. So when are you going to be built, and when can I buy it or let it? And actually, we can deliver in slightly different places. So what the scheme we've currently got on site has got residential over the other side of the road, but actually we had no issues with the residents, because they knew it was 7 metre high eaves, so it's not going to be overshadowing them. They knew it was for local businesses, so they were like, yeah, we support it. So we do engage quite actively with residents and so forth, but for us it's about telling them the story of what we're going to provide and how that supports. In the first scheme we've done, all the 9 businesses are from within 5 miles of the site. So, people can see, actually, I live there and I work there, and actually that's a benefit for us in the local community.
Thanks, Stuart. And Dan, Seagrove have got a really important strategic site linked in with what we're doing in Coventry and Warwickshire. I mean, what Stuart's talking about, that pathway and that link into and some of those larger developments that you mentioned in your introduction, how is it for you in terms of the context that Stuart's just shared?
Yeah, well, look, I think Seagrove Park Coventry is the development that I think you're referring to. Look, we've got 3 million square feet of B8 space there, and we have to really respond to the market demand that we see materially coming through the pipeline when we're speaking to our agents that are advising us, and we're speaking to our existing customers. And typically speaking, we have got buildings that are coming through that are as small as 90,000 square feet, which is probably for a developer of our sort of size and scale, probably the smallest sort of footprint that we would go down to in relation to one of those larger strategic sort of industrial and logistics locations. But we do play in the field of much smaller units as well. So, we've got 460 acres in Slough, the Slough Trading Estate, where, like Stuart, we've got buildings that are 500 square feet, right the way up to buildings that are a few 100,000 square feet in that sort of location. So we do play in those different sort of asset classes, but typically speaking, with our more, as I say, strategic, often can be rail linked industrial and logistics locations, we're typically 100,000 square feet plus up to 1.2, 1.3 million square feet, responding to that market demand really that we see with our customer network.
Fantastic, thank you. And I'm going to move us on to our next question, and we did start to talk on it, and Kate, you kind of started to intimate this, and this is very much about, you know, in your world in Tritex, you know, we hear how IDL can really, how does IDL really work to support that local delivery? We've heard the reference to placemaking, you know, we talk about the jobs and skills arena, which from a county's perspective is really important for those pathways for young people, but, you know, how can those designs be flexible as well to support those future needs, which is another thing we're starting to hear about, that longevity?
Yeah, I think it's when we think about ESG, we think about compliance, and I think you've got to take that off the table, because compliance is, as you say, the bare minimum. We all should be aspirational, and that's where we start. And I think if you reframe your ESG and you think about, well, it's people, it's places, and it's prosperity, and if that's your starting point and your mindset, then you're thinking, well, how do I do that for 15, 20, 25 years? And future-proofing is really, it's more difficult, I think, than we say, oh, we're future-proof and we do all these tech elements. Because what you're trying to do is see into the future and say, well, what are the technology changes that are going to come about? And I'm pretty confident everyone in this room 20 years ago wouldn't think we would have the level of automation, for example, in our facilities as we do now. We've got AI and data centers. That's a new development. So it's if you think about those kind of core values, then that can help guide you through. And we just a comment about the density of our developments. Leaving space is kind of important. And what now might be placemaking in the future might turn into, well, we've got a different energy solution. So it's no longer a substation in a corner. What happens if we've got small nuclear reactors? That could happen. So that future-proofing is really about how flexible can we make what we do, alongside how can we make it at the cutting edge of the technology as we know it at this moment in time.
And Ian, Prologis, how does that all work and sit with you? And you've shared some of the stories about supporting young people with what you do. Just wondered if you could just sort of share some other insights.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we get a lot of just touching on the design element, a lot of that comes from our customers. You know, we have regular, across our 22 parks, we have regular meetings with our customers. We bring all the customers together, so rather than just having isolated meetings with them, get all the customers in the room, talk about some of the issues that they're having, the problems, how do we address their future needs. One of the key points that came out recently was, and this is something that we started addressing a number of years ago, is travel to work and sustainable travel is, whilst it's being embedded through plan making, and that's right and proper, we need to be slightly ahead of that, because what we're hearing from our customers is 40 to 50% you're excluding from the potential job market in the areas that we operate because they can't get to work because they haven't got a car or they can't afford to run the car. So actually engaging up front, trying to get the better public transport system. So we partner with a company called Mobility Ways, and we work with them and our customers to try and set up mechanisms where individual employees, staff work with each other to either car share, lift share. We put on Zelo buses, working with them to try and establish what are your sustainable routes to work. Because unless you embed those at the outset of any development, you're going to exclude a huge proportion of potential people. And that's addressing the social inequality point as well. So if you've got areas where, yeah, people need to work, but they can't get to work, well, the fundamental barrier to that is your public transport system. So, you know, we're sort of, this is imposed upon us, but we should all be doing this anyway because it's better for our customers. And if our customers can get the staff there, they're more likely to remain on site. So, you know, that's just one example. The training hub that I mentioned before, you know, how does that address the social inequality actually of training people within warehouses? This goes back to the sort of perception point of the jobs in the warehouses are low skilled. They are absolutely not at all. So, you know, running those courses, bringing people in who are long-term unemployed, ex-care workers, ex-military, training them up, running them through those courses so we're able to actually fulfill the needs of our customers, you know, really important as well.
And it is that myth busting, isn't it? It's that understanding. We perhaps remember the apprenticeships in days gone by on the cars, and it was always, but now an apprenticeship is a really sought after career path or a route through for young people. We've seen that young people now deciding whether that's university or an apprenticeship, and it's actually now created that value. And I think there's something around how do we bring that same value to the young people to see this, not that just job, but that career pathway, as you say, the technical skills. These buildings house a whole range of skill sets, whether it's R&D, whether it's the office level, whether it's the automotive, electronic side, or the IT side of it, are all being housed within these buildings. And I think there's something about getting that message out to a number of partners and a number of people, but also to those communities and young people. And I just wondered, Dan, from your side at Segro, how's that sort of message getting out to let people know what's on?
Look, we try our best, but as Ian referred to at the beginning, we need, as a sector, we need to do much more in terms of that sort of perception point. Because I did it with Mike Reeder MP on Monday evening, and he was saying in Northamptonshire, so he's MP for South Northamptonshire, logistics supplies a job for every one of his constituents. I mean, that's incredible, because that's how much warehouse space that they have in that particular local area. And the average wage for his constituencies is higher than the national average wage. So the perception of every warehouse is filled by 0-hour contracts, minimum wage is just not true today. Because as you rightly say as well, there's a range of different functions that go on within our industrial spaces. And the beauty, I suppose, of the I&L sector is, in reality, sheds are pretty simple in their form, and what goes on inside them can vary dramatically. Across our portfolio, we've got film studios, data centres, logistics businesses, a whole host of stuff, paddle courts, all sorts of different stuff that are just housed inside our logistics facilities. So to say that they're all sort of tarred with exactly the same brush is just fundamentally flawed. We really need to explain that. We try and do that through our community investment programs, whereby we kind of work with local schools. We respond to the needs of each of our communities very, very differently. So we never say we've got a set sort of rollout from our community investment perspective. So we'll speak to local schools, we'll speak to local councillors, and we'll work with the local communities to find out what their problems are, whether it's employment, whether it's special educational needs, whatever the case may be, and really promote our schemes, but also the sector and how people can get into the sector through our community investment programs.
Yeah, I think that's important. I mean, I was on a roundtable yesterday, and this is one of the fastest growing elements of our economy in the UK, is about that logistics and side of it. And it's something we really need to be thinking how we can tap into and really share those benefits to our communities.
It's getting people into that's our biggest challenge. So when we run tours, and we'll bring officers, bring members, and we'll show them the buildings, and sometimes if we're allowed to film, we'll film it. And it changes the perceptions immediately when people walk around and they see not just the office jobs, but they're walking around and they're seeing the IT guys, and they're seeing the data technicians, and they're seeing actually how much automation there is in the buildings, and how constantly, if that goes down, that's a big cost to them. So actually having all the backup IT teams there on site, having the data teams, the M&E teams, there's a broad church of roles. So I think what we try to do is, invite people in, show them the buildings, try and educate them in a non-patronising way. But this is, to Dan's point, this is what goes on, and most of them are absolutely blown away because they've still got those historical perceptions. And
it's the show and tell. I know, Kate, your site down in Rugby, you're looking at that well-being and the wellness and the fitness and that kind of thing alongside the job. So it's that creating, as you were saying, that use of space to connect to, what we're trying to achieve in terms of that good development.
Yeah, and I think a really valid point there. It's getting people into the building, or at least getting their perspective changed, because if you can't see it, you don't do it. So young people, if they don't understand that there is a job there with a quality and in an environment, they don't aspire to go forward and explore that as an opportunity, because they're completely blind to it. So we have a very kind of structured way. We target. We're not looking at hundreds of children. We're looking to integrate and connect with thousands of children in the UK with property through Tritax, to say, the jobs you can do within the facility, the jobs that you can do on our side. So do you want to be a developer? Do you want to be a structural engineer? What happens in the creation of the places that we do? So it's that whole kind of life cycle, from buying a bit of land, you can get involved in that, by the way, come and have a look, see what it looks like, to these are the jobs and the opportunities that are created in the units that we build.
Yeah, I think there's a lot we can be doing. So thank you. I'm going to sort of finish on our last question. which I'm going to direct towards Stuart. I mean, Stuart, Warwickshire Property Development Group and Warwickshire County Council, you know, we've got a really strong established partnership, so it feels only right to be talking to you about partnerships. So I wondered if you could just sort of give us a little bit about your insight as to how that relationship's become meaningful, and also how the public and private maybe can work together, and looking at maybe some of those points where we sometimes have friction, sometimes have some, but how can we look to reduce those as well?
I mean, I think the key, I think, for us is when we were set up and the council had the foresight and set us up to sort of deliver on a number of agendas, actually the idea of building employment space was probably sort of further down the list of objectives, really. It was more around sort of the residential and bringing that forward. And what we've done over the last few years is really move that up the list to sort of being almost sort of, you know, joint top in that sense, because there's a recognition that there is an absolute need for this. So and then how do you do that? How do you bring the community and the residents and the businesses that are local into that activity? Because for us, as a council owned company, if we can deliver locally but actually use, for want of a better phrase, the local workforce, the local consultants, then actually we're adding value into the economy, not just from providing that employment space where businesses go and grow and take on local people for jobs, but actually we support the infrastructure. So we've used local architects, so literally architects within Warwickshire. We've used local M&E. The first scheme we did, the contractor was a Warwick contractor, and it's quite interesting because the lads on site were all saying, we don't have to travel 2 hours or 3 hours to get to site, because literally it's like 10 minutes down the road. It's the closest job we've ever had. And they actually, in doing that, they actually bring a level of confidence and workmanship to that, because they're working on something, and some of them would drive past and sort of say, oh, I brought the kids up the other day just to have a look and see what we're doing, because actually they talk about it at home as we all do about jobs, but their kids sort of not going to drive down to Slough or to wherever to just have a look at the scheme, but actually with them being there, they'd do that. So for us, it's about sort of not just delivering for local community in terms of the physical building, but it's the infrastructure that goes around that, really, with the businesses, engage with them. It's with the contractors and the consultants and everything else. And in the end, it's about providing those outcomes to the county. Now, this has been a learning process for us. So, we've now got into a rhythm of, what does the county shareholder want? Any shareholder, wants a return. That, and that's also key for us. We've got to give a return. So every scheme we're doing in this sort of commercial floor space is viable. So we don't have grant. There's no grant available either from government or from sort of local government to do it. So every scheme has to be viable, and that is a challenge because building small units, it's more costly. You've got more walls, you've got more toilets, you've got more, you've got more of everything. So we have to really work hard to get that to work. But in doing that, it's having that trusted supply chain really for us. So, we have certain, firms that are beneficial. They understand how we work and so forth. So it's growing those relationships. And for us, it's working locally. So, but I think where we are now, I think we're in complete alignment between us and the county shareholder that this is the right approach for the company to be doing. So actually, we're expanding that activity by actually starting to purchase sites from the market. So not just using the council land bank, but actually buying sites in, because there's a recognition that if 74% of the economy is based on SMEs and local people, majority of people work within a couple of miles of those facilities, then actually, if we can create, I think at the minute we've got 60 of these units that were in the pipeline or delivered. That's a huge investment into SME job creation, SME growth, or for residents. So that's our mantra at the minute, and I think it would be great to see that replicated really, because I think you guys work in all parts of the country, and I don't think it's unique in Warwickshire that you have this issue where the small units are more challenging and you've got less of them being built now?
I think well, that's a nice segue, Stuart. But it's so we're promoting a scheme in Ryton, where we have a partnership with Warwickshire Property Development Group, and I think it's that recognition that our scheme is for 3 million square feet. So for the product that we will deliver, it will be mid-box, 50, 60, 100,000, 200, up to 500,000 square feet. What we recognised though was we can't do everything really well, and actually that smaller SME incubator space, which as Stuart rightly says, there's a massive need for. We know that. Are we actually best placed to deliver that? We can deliver buildings from 5,000 square feet up to 1.5 million, and we do. But actually, are we specialists in delivering those smaller SME units? No, we're not, if we're brutally honest. So actually, find a partner that can do that really well, and that's their business model. That's what they're doing all the time. You've got the supply chain links, you've got the design, you've got the customer contacts. You understand that market better than we do. We understand the other market, the big boxes. So what we've done there is, in partnership with WPDG, is identify an area of our site which will be brought forward as an SME scheme adjacent to our mid-box and our big box. So we do hopefully get that grow on space. It encourages the startups, and maybe, to Stuart says, they may well leave your scheme, but hopefully if they're growing, and they're growing in Warwickshire, they're going onto one of our parks as well. So that's where that sort of partnership works very well.
Thank you. And Dan, the public-private sector sometimes have different success measures. That's the nature of it. But obviously that collaboration, I was just wondering from your perspective, that partnership between the private public, how's that working with SEGRO?
It comes back to value fundamentally, doesn't it? How are we creating value for each of our stakeholders, as mentioned at the beginning of the session? And I think we all have a slightly different slant on what value means, and for a local authority that will mean long-lasting impact on the local area, jobs, residents, community programs, and so on and so forth. So look, we have to just engage with every local authority that we work with as early as possible and make sure that any of our developments are just seen as partnerships right from the outset. So, and that will be through local plan making, through planning applications itself, and then beyond that through the actual fundamental operation and delivery of the building. So introducing our customers into local authorities. So we just have to think about it really, really long and hard, and make sure that we're doing it right from day one, and it's not an afterthought. So that's how we sort of engage as well.
And Kate, Tritax, you guys are active in communicating and talking with us. I'm just wondering how it fits with either with Warwickshire or the other parts of the country that you're working in.
Yeah, I think partnership is absolutely key, and it is the foundation on which that we move forward together. I think understanding where you can create value for everybody involved in that chain and that route is absolutely key to success. And then from the offset saying, well, we've all got a vision of what success looks like. Are we all on the same page? Have we set that out clearly? Have we defined what it is we want to achieve? What do we want the end product to look like and feel like, and make it measurable, make people accountable for it, and then communicate it. And that comes, I think, really to everything, whether it's your ESG credentials, it's maybe the number of jobs that you're creating. It's saying, whether it's embodied carbon, for example, what's the thing that you want to achieve? What does it look like? Do we all agree with it? Who is going to be responsible for delivering it? And then once we've delivered it, how do we tell the local community, this is what we've done? This is what we've done in your borough. And then that really will create success for everybody.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well, that's sort of the end of the topics we were going to be picking and sort of exploring with our panels. But there's an opportunity now for anyone in the audience, if they've got any questions they'd like to ask our panel about good development or anything that they've heard today that they'd like to explore. Yeah.
David Green, Delta Planning, Warwickshire panel today. And it's an industry doing really well on your placement. Massive change we're doing years ago in our sector. What I'm interested to know is what and we're pushing you and our design team to do better placement. Planning systems. I'm interested to know what level a customer is it more the planning side, or is it how much do they give placement? Or is it still down to the rent and
I'll take it first if you want. Yeah, well, commercials are always a huge talking point, right, with any deal and any negotiation. But customers are hugely driving it. So if you take Secret Park Coventry, for instance, we've landed DP World and DHL there as two sort of big anchor occupiers. If you go around DHL, so it's DHL's e-commerce facility, go around their facility, the specification of their fit out and internal operation is absolutely second to none. And the park itself has got a country park and many other amenities adjacent to it. So from DHL's perspective, that is super important because they know in order to be an attractive location for them to work, the environment in which their building is based has to be second to none, absolutely first class. So it's a huge consideration. So hence why, not least our investors demand it, local authorities are demanding a higher bar. Customers are certainly driving it as well.
Yeah, and just to add to that, from a customer perspective, placemaking has a real tangible economic impact to those occupiers. Because if you've got a good environment to work in, you have staff that take less sick days. You have staff who stay with you, so you don't have to re-recruit. You have staff who are that they don't just look at the economic benefit of working for you. They look at, well, I really like where I work. I really like going into work. When I go out for my lunch, I can go and walk around a country park, and I've got facilities, and I can get to work in a bus. So I don't have to pay for a car. So all of that placemaking, it has a real economic impact on our clients.
But there isn't going to be a premium attached to your question on the commerciality. We're not expecting it. The customers aren't expecting to pay for it. So yes, the quality, the environment, the product is all improving. That doesn't really reflect with an enhanced premium for that. You're just delivering the best product in the market, and if you expect to lease it, then that's what you've got to deliver. But yeah, I'd echo all those comments. It starts with the customers, ends with the customers, but we've got to drive that agenda as well. Bringing their staff onto a site, they don't just want them to drive there, go to the job, and then drive home again. Make it an environment where they may get to work early. They may spend a bit of time. They might go to a coffee shop if we provide a gym, or they provide a walkway, or they can cycle there. And there's a bike repair facility on site. So providing all of those sort of add-ons that make people think, actually, yeah, I can cycle to work now because Prologis have provided a bike repair centre, which is open 1 day a week. So I'll get my bike there. Or I might have a voice scooter, love them or hate them, or a Lime bike, or whatever those routes are. Just keep on every single building, every single part, you make incremental improvements to the building, to the specification, to the well-being, and you look back over 20 years and you think, wow, how far have we come on? There's small improvements all the time. So when you create a brand and a brand image changes, it changes small amounts over time. So you just keep on innovate. And one thing I'm proud about Prologis, we keep on doing that time and time again. You just got to keep on raising the bar, and the sector will follow.
I think for us, it's about from the customer, and when they come and view a unit, what they're thinking about as a small business is two things really. One is when they go around, they want to know about how energy efficient the building is for them as a small business, because actually it's their running costs. That's what they, if they're going to pay rent, they know what that is. They're going to pay, but what is, so the buildings we deliver are EPCA, and that provides them with an ability to go, yeah, I sort of understand that. I know what that means. It's very difficult to get small buildings to be BREEAM excellent, or just because of the footprint. But EPCA, they understand. It's like what's on the washing machine, or what they get. If it's higher, then it's cheaper in simple terms. So that becomes one of the things. I think that the second thing is it's really interesting their perception of how they see their clients view them. So actually, when we were taking 3 of them round, what they were really keen on is this is brand new. We're expanding. We can bring new clients to our offices, to the unit, and one of the tenants fitted it out with some offices and probably spent half as much as what the cost to build the unit on it. But the great thing was they were thinking about, we can bring new clients here, and they'll go, yes, we want to do business with this company. Whereas they were based previously on a 1960s unit behind the back of X, and so it's those type of things. It's those sort of very sort of for them sort of the key elements that they want to address so that they can grow their business, so they look professional, they've got in an energy efficient building, and they can take on staff. So and I'm sure you guys find this, lots of businesses don't want to move very far because of their infrastructure's there. You know, the key to any business is the staff. So they're all, you know, within that locality. They don't want to be moving very far. So actually, for what we do, that's why we do find most of our sort of tenants or customers are from within a few miles, because they don't want to move very far, because that's where their staff are. If they lose their staff, they lose their USP and what their business is. So I think for us, that's what we see when we're talking to customers about what they view as their key sort of areas of interest, really.
Thank you. We have time if there's any. Oh, yes, go for it.
So, thank you. Hear about the INL, the customer. So the manufacturing done under into journey. So moving, creating.
Who's going to go first?
Go for it.
You go.
Always goes this, so I keep on chipping in. Yes, is a short answer. I think one of our biggest customers in the West Midlands is Jaguar Land Rover. They're in 9 of our buildings, so really important, and all the associated supply chain that spins off that as well. So, look, cognizant that when we design parks, when we want to seek an allocation, we want as much flexibility as possible. We're not targeting a particular asset class, a particular user, particular use class. We want a broad range so we can attract anybody, because we think we know the market, but it changes. So build flexibility into it is key. But actually, yeah, it's a really important part within our portfolio, areas more than others. So about 43% of our West Midlands portfolio is either automotive, manufacturing, supply chain linked. Hugely important. Different if we go to the East Midlands, different if we go to South East, but you'll get different hotspots. But where we are in Warwickshire, where we are in Brighton, where we've got existing buildings to Jaguar, yeah, massively important. We don't want to preclude or exclude other sectors as well, because there's a perception thing about, well, JLR is really good, manufacturing is really good, R&D is really good, life science is really good, but actually we don't want the e-commerce or the omni-channel. Well, how do we get everything that we touch every single day of the week, which all comes through our facilities? So again, it comes back to changing the perceptions again. Yes, we want to attract all of those asset classes, but don't penalise us because there are omni-channel or retailers that want to come there as well, because they are as important. They still deliver the same jobs, the same quality of jobs as well.
Okay.
I would absolutely agree, and I think if you just take it back to basic economics as well, from a portfolio perception, you know, we all hold our units for a long period of time. We want to have each sector of the market represented in our portfolio. That's just common sense, really, so that when one market sector is performing well, another is dropping off for a little bit, we've got that spread, and we've got that kind of long-term security in our income. So it just makes sense.
Again, agree with all that, and I think when we go into planners and sort of do a pre-app or talk to them about the scheme, most times they're quite surprised, because when we go in and they're expecting us to go, we just want to build, you know, a single building, and we go, no, actually we want to build these small units. We normally get the economic development teams of the authorities quite sort of excited by it, really, because there's just not as many, there's not a lot of them. So I think, you know, it doesn't stop. It still takes a while to get through planning. Let's put that, you know, it doesn't help us in that sense, but it does help in the fact that, you know, corporately in those planning authorities, this is the type of product they want. So it helps to get over that first hurdle, really. So I think, but again, I agree with everything else said, really. You know, I think naturally it is around that movement of businesses, and it does open up space for others. And it'd be interesting, as we continue to do that, to track who backfills that space and see how that sort of works as, you know, as an ecosystem, really.
Dan?
I'll wrap up very quickly as well.
Yeah.
But look, for me, it's simple supply and demand demand fundamentals, really. You know, we design and make our space so it's as flexible as possible. So we would love more manufacturers in our space. The problem is I take a keen eye on all of our inquiry schedules for every single one of our sites. They are not filled with manufacturing inquiries, generally speaking, because manufacturing in the UK has been declining for years and years. Funnily enough, the stats are indicating that we've got a bit of a resurgence and it's kind of coming back over the last few quarters. But we would, we'd invite manufacturing businesses to each one of our locations, so definitely don't preclude them. And we typically have B1, B2, B8 uses across all of our sites.
Right, thank you. Any more? We've got a little time. If not, oh yes, please.
Andy Williams by and massive education, explaining what these things how to appreciation of what they are, often take 20 years on. And the mechanism to do that is showing the brand that you're willing to the exterior of these schemes, the outdoor installation, is harder to capture. And I'm getting to my question. Do you capture data on how your operators use the open space, the access to nature, health and wellbeing ability? Is that something you capture? And it's a pointed question only because I think there's some statistics there that might be helpful to educate on something that's harder to communicate and that is the outdoor. So it's just a specific question. Do you capture data on how your operators use your experience? And is that something you're willing to do?
I think it's a really good point. Specifically, I don't think we have a specific metric. So I take that on board, and I think that's a really good comment. What we do is annually we check in with our occupiers and we do a survey of them, and we're presenting it later today. And we ask them, what's the most important thing for you in your business right now? Is it health and wellbeing and ESG? Is it cost of staff, etc.? So we monitor, and we've done that for a few years now. So we're starting to have that data from years gone by to track, well, actually, what are occupiers finding most important? Is it ESG? Is it your outdoor space? Or is it economic pressures? So we're in that direction, we're in that ballpark, but we're not specifically, do you go outside and use the country park? We've got a scheme up north that's got a country park. Are you using the multi sports courts that we're putting in? Are you using the running tracks that we put in and the walking tracks? So good point.
Yeah, it's qualitative rather than quantitative. It's really interesting. Yeah, and we're I'm sure all of it. We track a lot of data. You've managed to probably pick the one area that we don't at the moment. So well done. There's value in coming.
And that's really that's why
so
these panels are really useful because
yeah. So and I think tracking how people travel to work, we do, whether that's car, whether that's bus, whether that's cycle, walk. So we survey our customers as well, and we get that sort of real-time feedback when we have our customer advisory boards and we sit down there with them. But yeah, not numerically, not quantitatively. So, all right, thank you.
I think
you're going to say you do, aren't you?
I think sadly at Seager, I think we do. Look, I mean, the size and the scale of some of our sites, they demand, we have a country park steering group. So that's 5 or 6 different individuals who manage the estate around our industrial buildings ultimately and look at the facilities, the amenities that are available and how well it's used and how many people are walking their dogs on a daily basis, that sort of stuff. And then again, from a transport perspective, again, we have transport steering groups. So our transport consultants sit on that, all of our occupiers sit on that and look at sort of multimodal forms of transport and how well they're being used. And we get some really, really good stats that come back, actually. And, we take East Midlands Gateway, which is a huge, big stabilised asset next to East Midlands Airport. We've got something like 52% of employees who travel to that particular site via sustainable means of transport, so either bike, public bus, or car share. So that's pretty impressive. So some of the data we do get back is indicating really good things.
Fantastic.
I was just going to say from our side it's slightly different because we're more plug and play. So we're delivering on a scheme that on a site that is 3 or 4 acres as part of either a larger site or as part of a brownfield site that's been brought back into use. But most of our sites have got really good connectivity. So the one we do at the minute has got a new cycleway and bus stops outside and things like that. So we're cognizant of it, but there's a lot less we can do on a single 3 or 4 acres than what can be done on 300 or 400 in that sense.
Thank you. I'm going to call time now. We've come to the end of our session. So just before I thank the panel, just sort of a little bit of a summary of some of the conversations we've had and the key points. some reflective conversation. So there's definitely, it's not good, it's excellent that we need to be aspiring to, and there's certainly a journey we need to be going on. It sounds like we are on that journey, and it's going to be a really positive direction we're heading towards. Early collaboration, getting together in those key stakeholders, having those conversations feels absolutely critical in this space. And, you know, mentioned Kate there about people, place and prosperity. And I think, you know, if it's all about what works commercially, what's worked for the people, and then still works in 20 years' time. So there's definitely that longevity. But if I could ask you all to thank, so Dan, Kate, Ian and Stuart for your time today and for your panel. And if I could, and then also just, sorry, if I can just also express thanks to Winvic, to Heidi and the team for everything, for helping support and for sponsoring us today as well. So thank you so much to Winvic as well. Thank you.